After heated internal debate, today the Republican Party released details of its Phase 4 coronavirus stimulus bill. This will function as the GOP's opening position in negotiations with House Democrats, whose $3.5 trillion HEROES Act is on the table. A continuing point of debate is the enhanced unemployment benefits from the $600 a week that they had been, and Democrats want them to remain, to the Republicans' $200 a week proposal. Democrats and Republicans will debate that, but one thing they likely will not debate is another round of stimulus checks for individuals. Democrats want it on the same terms, and Republicans reportedly do as well. Here to discuss the implications of the bill on your bottom line is Brian Levy of BML Wealth Management. Brian, thanks so much for taking some time to be with us today. A lot of movement and a lot of people are in a world of hurt. And when we talk about this reduction in the unemployment benefits from 600 to 200, it's essentially a 43% reduction calculated across the country. So what can people do who are in that position where they're getting this reduced benefit? How can they navigate it? Where can they get some money?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me. You're exactly right. It's a big deal to have that much of a reduction. I know for a lot of people, that was sort of bridging the gap. And so a couple things you want to do right now, I mean, all we focus on is retirement planning, is you want to reassess your budget. You want to go back and relook at, now's a great time to just relook at what are your basic living expenses, what are some of the things you're able to cut out, and what are some of the necessities that you have to pay for. And essentially, if you do that, you're hopefully going to be able to find some areas to cut out and maybe offset some of that negative impact if they do end up reducing it down to $200 per pay period.
It is an important time to take some reflection on our fiscal habits. So on that note, I mean, people are going to have a hard time. They're going to be squeezed, yet the bills are there. Give us a quick rundown of the best advice on which bills to hit in what order.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned before, the basic necessities obviously are going to be there. And so I always look at sort of elective expenses versus essential expenses. So you want to look at, and as you mentioned, there's a pecking order of what you should cut out. And obviously the essential ones you have to keep. The elective ones, those are the things right now. You could always go back to those subscriptions. You could always go back to the things that really, that we find enjoyment out of. But I think right now is the time to tighten the belt. And really focus on what's important, which is getting by right now and weathering the storm.
And I hate to bring up this scenario, but there are some people that have been living somewhat beyond their means already. Those jobs are gone. These unemployment benefits aren't going to cut it. Just looking at their bills isn't going to do it, Brian. So for those people, what are the sort of more nuclear options here? How can they get a restart? What's available to them to get out of this moment?
So for those that are in that difficult of a position, the CARES Act that came out this year gave you the ability to access some of those retirement funds early. And like you mentioned, this is kind of a last resort option. So you may be able to go back to your 401k, take money out of there and pay the tax back over 3 years. And also the amount you could take out of your 401k is a lot greater. The maximum now is $100,000 at one point versus $50,000 when it comes to borrowing from the 401k. So remember, those funds are designed for retirement. If you take them out early, you're going to impact things down the road. But like you said, as a last resort, those funds are there. And 401ks, you're paying yourself back interest, which might be a better option than a credit card.
Brian, that's all really great advice, and we just have a few seconds left, but everyone, regardless of employment situation, is going to be getting a COVID stimulus check, another one, that $1,200 check that we talked about from last time, up to $150,000 for a couple. But just give us a quick sense. What should people be doing with that money?
Well, you know, look, I have a lot of clients that are already retired or maybe close to retirement, and some of them receive the checks, but they're not in desperate need. Now, a lot of them are finding charities to give that to. A lot of them are trying to find ways to make that money productive for people that need it most. But if you're in a position where necessarily you're not charitably inclined, or you're in a position where you want to put that back into your own accounts, looking at Roth IRAs and things that are going to grow tax-free, as long as you have an emergency fund set up, put that money away for the long term so you can benefit later.
Now, of course, the $200 is still just a proposal. We have yet to see what the final deal is. There's a lot going on, and we really appreciate your perspective today, and we look forward to talking to you as this continues. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.